Hey, Bowie Manning here with a live edition of Celtics Daily from Miami, as you can tell by the hat. Well, both hats. Wes Goldberg's here with the Marlins hat. I love the old Marlins hat, man.
Save it, man. I don't know why we got rid of it. It's such a great logo. I understand we can't be like it can't be an F. It's got to be an M now, but you could do the same logo with an M. It's hard. It's not that
Florida
hard.
Marlins. That was classic. That was when they
Yeah.
were at their best, too.
It was when they were just good. Period. They haven't been good since. But we're building something. I feel good about the new front office with the Miami Marlins. We'll see.
Yeah, big Red Sox news today, too. We'll get to baseball stuff another time here. But why don't you talk about some of the basketball rumors starting to rumble here? Obviously, Wes does a lot of national coverage on Locked On NBA as well as the Real GM podcast, where I was just appearing, a week
Mhm.
ago or so. So good to talk to you again here, Wes. And the big thing we talked about over at practice today, if people want to watch Noah and I discussed it over on Celtics All Access. But the Celtics reportedly would love to add Jaren Jackson Jr. A lot of shuffling going on in Memphis, it feels like, as they try to decide whether they're going to move forward with this core or break it up, rebuild, whatever they're going to do here, because it's not working too well at the moment for that group. And I was torn on this. I said it earlier. I I love who Jaren Jackson could be as a player and has been at his best. But there's still so many flaws, so many holes in his game that concern me, so many empty performances sporadically filled in throughout his career so far. And obviously, at his best, he's been a defensive player of the year. I've seen him play like a prolific 4/5 offensively, maybe one of the best in the league in terms of being able to do it all at that position. He's got this nasty floater at this point. He hits his threes. There's so much you can do with him on that end. But it feels like to acquire him, and certainly with this new extension he signed here, you're investing him as if he's one of your superstars, almost on like a Brown Tatum caliber there. And listen, if you want to say that's the missing piece here in Boston for the next championship run, I might buy into that, especially given what they have at center at the moment. But the price to get there, are we talking like two firsts, multiple good young players, I would think. Certainly Anthony Simon's going out the door. So what are you doing at guard after that? I'm so torn on this one, Wes. Do you like it for Boston?
So I heard about this Jaren Jackson Jr. stuff rumbling about like a week ago, and at first I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh, geez, what a perfect fit, right?" Like that was my first reaction.
He
Jaren
is a
Jackson
good
Jr.
fit.
People come when he was coming out of Michigan State, people were comparing him to Al Horford, right? Like
I
that
see
was
it.
one of the draft comps, and so like you can get younger Horford under contract, right? He signed the extension this summer. I'm still not sure that the Grizzlies are going to trade Jaren Jackson Jr., but it does make sense to at least listen to phone calls about it. You said two first round picks. If I'm the Grizzlies, I'm starting on the Desmond Bain package. Like that's where I'm for that
What
guy.
was that? Four?
Four first round picks. Now you didn't. You also had KCP going over, and you can argue that maybe one of those first round picks was to get off the KCP contract. So maybe it's not exactly the same. Like if you're able to get some good young players back, if you're the Grizzlies, maybe you're able to come down on the first round picks. But anyway, at first I was like, that's a perfect fit. And the more I thought about it since then, the more I'm just not sure that's like the right move. I'm not sure that's the all in move because on its face, you get a center who could do some of the Horford things, right? Former defensive player of the year, plays the 4 and the 5, can hit threes, like all that kind of stuff. But what he doesn't do, I think, really could be detrimental to the Celtics, right? He does not rebound at a high level. And this is a team that really needs rebounding in a really bad way. And that is the thing that Grizzlies fans are most frustrated with Jaren Jackson Jr. The other thing that he does is he fouls a ton, and he's
Oh
never
my
fixed it.
God.
And we know with Joe, like with the possession battle and the margins that Joe Mazzulla is trying to win, the Celtics can't afford to lose the foul game, right? Like that's a big part of their advantage is they're never gonna they're gonna either they're gonna get more free throws, right? They're either gonna get to the line more or they're not going to foul. The Celtics team does not foul. So adding Jaren Jackson Jr. to the mix, the guy who just routinely fouls out of multiple games, like a month. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. Like, if the price were something different, maybe, but like that guy is really expensive. It's going to send them back up into some luxury tax areas that maybe they don't want to be in, and it's going to cost a lot to get to pry him away from Memphis because I do think that they're committed to him. Right? They signed him to that extension after the toe surgery. Right? Like this is a guy who they really like there in Memphis, so it's going to cost a lot to pry him away. I'm not sure it's worth it if I'm the Celtics.
Yeah, and you have to think if they're gonna move forward, they're gonna keep one of Ja or Jaren Jackson. And based on the reporting right now, it looks like it's not Ja at the moment. And how could it be given the last year or two from him? Maybe even
Yeah.
more at this point. It's been a slow, steady decline for him there in Memphis. We'll get to Ja at the end of the show here. I'll say this though, when it comes to Jackson. One, we've heard the Celtics connected to Zubac, who I like as well. I like the idea. I'd rather acquire Jackson at this price than Zubac, obviously. Just so much more offensive skill set that you can tap into there. Two, I'd obviously much rather see them do something like this than just salary dump Simons. And, we had Michael Scotto on here talking about like Cam Thomas and Day'Ron Sharp for Simons, which I guess is fine if you're trying to cut some money, but isn't making you a better team. So I think you want to see something exciting for now and into the future. And I have heard, leading up to this deadline here, that the Celtics want to do something that helps them now and in the future. Like, I don't think they're looking to patch up the roster for this season. It'd be great to, given the position that they're in here, and they've now dropped a couple of games in a row. Feels like we're approaching a point where they need some reinforcements in the front court, and certainly Tatum could be part of that here as his approach looms potentially. But you want to see something happen that you could get excited about. And this would be so exciting. I compared it earlier, Wes, to Derek White a couple of years ago. And I'm not saying Jackson's Derek White, but I do think there's some parallels to, all right, he's been on a good team. He's established a nice groundwork for himself in the league foundation. Still relatively young. I think he's like 26. And
Yep.
at a point where if you move him to a good organization that can minimize his weaknesses and maximize his strengths, and the Celtics have been able to do that, and they did it with White, right? He comes over, weak shooter, bit of a combo guard, not necessarily a point guard, and now he's thriving at point guard and hitting every three he takes. So I see some parallels there to like, all right, we love these strengths in his game. Let's invest in those, work on some of the weak points, and all of a sudden is Jackson starring in his role next to Tatum and Brown. I think that's certainly possible there. So for that reason, just because I think you could still see improvements from him going forward, you could still see him playing better in a different situation. I actually wouldn't mind an aggressive stab at something like this. Like, what are you losing by giving up a couple firsts? Let's say it's two. I like Hugo Gonzalez. I really do. Want to see what he can become here, but you are still playing for the now a little bit here. And I think you'd rather have Jackson than Ugo and Walsh potentially if you're giving up both of those guys. Like, I think that's worth it. And there is some argument that you'd rather have depth in this current NBA than 3 stars and whatever else around them. And if we're talking about Simons, Hauser, Ugo, and Walsh going out the door, that's a lot of depth.
It's a lot.
And you don't have much at the wing spot after that, especially for this season. But man, you are adding a bona fide piece to that front court at a position where you badly need one. I don't know if you want to pay $50 million at center in today's NBA necessarily here. So I'm stuck on that a little bit. But if you are going to do it, you want it to be a guy who can be a hub for your offense. And that's what Jackson is. There's a lot to love here as much as you can nitpick some of the weaknesses.
Yeah, like that's the bet, right? Is that we can make the most out of his strengths and minimize the weaknesses here. I will say, as bad as that Grizzlies situation seems now, like that has been a winning team for a long time, right? Like Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr. won a lot of basketball games together.
And so was San Antonio with Derek White.
100%. The thing that the Grizzlies, the thing you can't say about the Grizzlies is that they don't develop players well. Like that's a team that develops players really well. They've developed Jaren Jackson Jr. They developed Desmond Bane. You look at some of the role players that they've found and developed. Like they do a good job with development. I think that if you that's the bet, right? So we get Jaren Jackson Jr. here. We can get him to rebound better. We can kind of minimize the fouling, all that kind of stuff. I think he's a finished product. I kind of just think he is what he is, which is a very good player. You know, that's really, I think the question you asked at the end there is the key one. Is, do we really want to invest this much money into that position again after we did that with Kristaps and with Horford? Are we going to try to recreate what we had with those guys with a floor spacing 5 and try to be 5 out? I think there's some danger in doing that and trying to kind of recreate what you had before. Jaylen Brown, we talked about this in Real Jam Radio last week. He's taken a step up. He's a different kind of player now. He needs the ball more, frankly. Jason
You think
Tatum's going
that
to
could
come
pull
back,
from
and
Jaylen?
yeah, I think Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have to be. And by the way, you already have the three. Derek White is awesome, dude. Like it's like
Mhm.
you got the 3 stars. I almost think, is there a way that you could build this out with more depth? Those are your three high priced players, and then you get some mid level guys, middle class type salaries to fill it out. I would lean into depth, but that's what I would do. But like then again, I'm not Brad Stevens. I haven't built a championship roster. If they think Jaren Jackson Jr. is the guy, go for it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a lot of arguments out there that you can go get steady center production at the mid level. And the Celtics have certainly gotten it at the minimum this year when you look at
Hmm.
where they've been and what they've gotten out of Kada and Garza. I don't think there's a rush after seeing how that worked to go pay 25 times as much
Go
for
get
for your
like
center.
go get Marvin Bagley, dude. That guy's playing great in Washington. Like go get Marvin Bagley. Go knock the Dallas Mavericks over with a decent offer for Gafford. Something like that. Like those guys aren't necessarily 5 out, but like I said, you don't want to fall into this habit of trying to recreate what you once had. I think you want to develop something and move forward. Um, and those guys, I think, you could bring them in at A for a lot less money going out, a lot less depth going out, and B, when you do have to re-sign those guys, you don't have to sign them to a max contract like you might have to sign Jaren Jackson Jr. to. That's what I would do.
Potential free agents this summer at center. You're talking Vucevic, Nurkic, Collins, Mitchell Robinson, Rob Williams, Mo Wagner, a couple option guys floating around,
Mo
maybe
Wagner seems
Aiton.
like a great Celtic. That's a guy that you guys would
Yeah,
just
he was a
Boston
Celtic
would
for
just,
like a week.
was he?
He came over in the Tice salary dump that brought Luke
Okay.
Cornett over, actually. And Luke Cornett won out that battle. And it worked out well for Mo. Al Horford could be out there again. I don't know if that's, third time running potentially. Andre Drummond, Nick Richards, Mark Williams, restricted. Yeah, I mean, there's some guys floating around. People have loved the Walker Kessler thing forever.
Mhm.
And that wouldn't be cheap either
No.
necessarily. It does feel like there are some decent free agents here, but it does feel like the Celtics are going to have to make a medium-sized trade if they want to go get a bona fide center, like
I agree.
for a Kessler, Zubac. You keep hearing that. What do you think of the Zubac idea?
I like Zubac more for them
Yeah.
than Jackson. I'm a big Zubac fan. I think he's such a backbone defensively. He cleans up everything on the boards, your rim protection numbers. Like it's just like, hey, put this guy in, problem solved. And the pick and roll stuff that he developed with James Harden is real. Like that guy has a nice like little short game. You can run him and pick and roll with Tatum, with Derek White, with Jaylen Brown. It works, right? Like again, he's not spacing the floor for you. Celtics fans who love the Porzingis Horford stuff might be like, we really need a guy who shoots threes. I don't think you do. I think the team's good enough, wins on the margins, gets threes from other places enough where the center can just be a center. I think that's okay. And Zubac is awesome. I think he's super underrated. And as soon as if he were traded in Boston, he would not be underrated anymore because of the way the Boston media works. But it would just he would end up being like the new favorite guy to be like, who's really underrated? Zubac. That would be like on every talk show, and it's like he's not underrated anymore. But that's exactly what would happen.
Yeah, for sure. I don't mind it. 2 firsts, though. It's gonna be interesting. They owe their first to San Antonio in a swap in 2028.
Yep.
They owe the 2029 to Portland from the Drew Holiday trade. So not a ton of their picks can go out. 27, 30 off limits, and how good is their 26 with how well they've started this year? Not very. So they don't have a ton unless they dive into that future arsenal there. And picks are probably more important than they've ever been, given the current cap landscape. So I don't know. If I had to predict, I don't think they're going to make a big splash at center by the deadline, but it certainly looks like they're trying to do so with all the stuff they've been connected to so far. And I like that they're swinging big or trying to here because it looks like they can do something this year. And we'll get to that in just a second here. Celtics Heat coming up tomorrow. That's why we got Wes Goldberg here. We're both coming to you from Miami. I'm going to be in Miami today, or for tomorrow's game rather, and Atlanta on Saturday. So back on the road into the new year with our Celtics Daily podcast here. And we are brought to you by Prize Picks. And the big game is almost here. And there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game's right around the corner, you want to check out Prize Picks and everything going on over there. It's last chance to get in on the football action before next season. So close the season out right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. And there's a lot of new stuff going on over there, including the community tab, social feeds feature where you can share Prize Picks with your friends, copy lineups from winners with a single click, copy lineups you like, or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow Prize Pick partners like us and tail or fade our picks with just one click. And the new feature alert, early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. And fantasy season's over for all of us at this point. But with Prize Picks, you don't have to wait until next year's draft to keep playing fantasy. Prize Picks lets you play fantasy football every week, even in the playoffs. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections each week. No draft required. So join millions of users and sign up today for America's #1 sports picks app. That's Prize Picks. Download the app. Head over there. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. I also want to give a quick shout out here to Omaha Steaks. They've been great supporters of our Patriots coverage this season. So as they keep rolling in the playoffs, I wanted to let you know that you can support them by supporting Omaha Steaks and getting yourself some good eating right here. Starting the new year strong is easier and more delicious with premium portion proteins from Omaha Steaks. Stay satisfied, get energy, and fuel your routine with premium prepackaged protein delivered to your door from Omaha Steaks. I've tried this stuff. It's great. And right now you can taste the difference and get an extra $35 off at omahasteaks.com with the promo code Patriots at checkout. Support your fresh start with high quality proteins, tender steaks, gourmet burgers, versatile chicken, pork, and more with unrivaled quality and variety, with every bite backed by their 100% satisfaction guarantee. Amazing to maximize, perfectly aged to maximize tenderness, and hand cut by master butchers in America's heartland. Grass-fed, grain-finished beef has more marbling for exceptional flavor and is the choice of steakhouses and professional chefs around the world. So check it out and let Omaha Steaks deliver high-quality proteins right to your door. Visit omahasteaks.com to get an extra $35 off with promo code Patriots at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code Patriots. Terms apply. See site for full details. So let's keep it rolling here with Wes Goldberg. Celtics are in Miami. They dropped in last night, so they had a practice with a couple of days off today, and they've been not happy with the refs, Wes. I'm sure you saw Joe's comments after the Pacers game, just saying illegal screen over and over again, which was different for him. He talked about that a little bit today, why he went after the refs indirectly, which, again, he doesn't do. Usually talks around. I guess that was talking around it too, but he wasn't as strong on it today.
Has changed through your coaching career so far in terms of advocating and the officiating and for getting calls and things like that? Like, it doesn't seem like it's something you love doing, but you know, you go out and do that the other day a little bit. Like, how has your mindset changed over that, if it has at all?
I haven't really put too much thought into it. I mean, again, it's a balance, because at the end of the day, that's out of your control. There's really nothing you can do about it. But from time to time, there's always moments where, you know, I thought that was an obvious one. So just a balance there. At the end of the day, that's not the message to our team. Right? The message to our team was that run that they went on, coming out of timeouts, not turning the ball over, making sure we make our 2-on-1 reads, situational rebounding. That's the real message. But from time to time, there's obviously moments, where that happens. So just have to balance that. But the execution of our own team is the most important thing.
How do you see your guys handling that? Obviously, Jaylen's had his moments this year where he's expressed that frustration, and guys do it in different ways on the court. Like, is that something you talk up to them about, or you let guys handle that themselves individually?
I think at the end of the day, I think our techs are pretty low, so we're not costing points. As long as we do what we need to do to stick to the process of winning, and we do a great job of not costing ourselves points, and then they handle it how they want to handle it. But for the most part, I don't think it's taken away from our execution and our mentality towards the game, which I think is the most important thing.
Jaylen has talked about how in good games against good teams there's inconsistencies. Have you felt frustration about the way your team has been officiated all season? Is that something that's built up within you, or was last game just kind of something one-off that frustrated you?
I didn't really. That's me looking frustrated. I'm in good shape because I just kind of kept it to a simple one-word answer. So if you guys label that as frustration, I appreciate that.
Talking to you, since the night that you said finally, they obviously did. What was your reaction? Obviously, I'm assuming something you assumed was coming.
You shall receive. It is what it is. I think something had to be said. I think we're, like, as a team, we get to the free throw line the least in the league. So just protecting our guys and myself, I think that we should, deserve a little bit more respect. I think the analytics show that our team is dead last, and it's like inconsistencies as well. So I want them to, hopefully they put some time in and review it, but I feel like defenders and stuff is getting away with a lot, and it makes my job a lot harder.
Have you learned ways to get to the free throw line more often, whether it is advocating a little bit or figuring out like actually some techniques for doing it?
Sure, I've studied officiating. I've took the next step to know like where refs are supposed to be, whose call it is supposed to make. Like if they're at the who's at the point of attack, who's in the high quadrant or whatever. I've learned like the officiating, so I know who to talk to, who missed the call. And on top of that, I study all the top guys who get to the free throw line at a high rate and do the same things that they do. They just pick and choose who they like to call it on, and that's the part that pisses me off, because it should just be everybody should just get reffed evenly and consistently, but it just seems like there's an agenda where some guys they choose to call certain fouls for and some guys they don't.
So there you have it. Jaylen frustrated with the officiating, and there's been like 4 or 5, maybe 6 interviews now where he's sounded off on this. The interesting stuff's at the end there. He feels like, and he said he feels like the Celtics are getting a bad whistle against the top teams in the league, and obviously saying that there's preferential treatment for certain guys in the league, and he doesn't feel like he's getting that. His free throw attempts have gone up as the season's continued here, and that's why I asked if there's something he's learned about getting to the line more, because he was like 34th through the first time that he made a statement about this here. But he gets fined the other day. Joe follows with some frustration. I feel like other Celtics have gotten frustrated with that too. So I'll be interested to see if that continues tomorrow in Miami.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't have much sympathy for a team complaining about refs. I think it's kind of just annoying, the officiating. There's not a team in the league that's like, you know what? I think we've been getting a pretty fair whistle compared to other teams. Like every player thinks that they should be getting to the line more. It's like, okay, Jaylen Brown, like relax, dude. Like you look at the numbers, the Celtics overall are 18th in drives per game, right? Drives have a direct link to getting to the free throw line, right? They're 18th in the league in drives. Not near the bottom, but not near the top. So don't act like they're getting to the rim over and over and over again and just not getting the foul calls. Like they're right in the middle of the pack. Jaylen Brown, who is 3rd in the league in drives per game, you could look at that and say, well, he should be getting to the free throw line more. But when on the drives, he's getting 3.2 free throw attempts per game on his drives every game. That's right where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is. Shai's at 18.2 drives per game. Jaylen's at 17.9. Shai's getting 3.3 free throw attempts per game on those drives. Jaylen's get 3.2. It's the same. So I don't have much sympathy here, honestly, Bobby. I really think, sorry that you think you're not getting a fair whistle. Join the club. You've also noticed that in the league generally, foul calls are going down, right? Like the whistle is not being blown as much, and that's a trend going on across the league. And so maybe you do have some players who are a little frustrated because maybe there's a call here or there that they were getting maybe in October, November, December that they're not getting right now in January.
And that's been part of his commentary. Yeah, the consistency. He doesn't know what he's getting on any given night, which I can sympathize with that a little more.
Join the club. Yeah, we all know that. Yeah, everybody's dealing with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and trying to figure that out, especially as the top option now, is probably an adjustment. And we know Tatum certainly was no friend of the refs either when he was in this role. So I don't know. I don't really know what to do with it either when this talk comes up. I do notice a difference, though, Joe getting involved compared to the past. So we'll see where that goes. He certainly was not fined for doing it in a subtle way after that Indiana game. Tomorrow's Celtics Heat. The Heat, I don't know, floating around 500 here. Obviously, they're still trying to figure out what direction they're going in as a franchise after Jimmy Butler. And some reporting floating around out here that Ja Morant could be part of that picture into the future here if Memphis, as we discussed earlier, decides to blow it up or reset around Jackson, or just a whole different situation in the future here. They've obviously changed a coach over the last year here and haven't found much stability in the time sense, injuries and the rest a factor there as well. But for Miami specifically, your thoughts on them this year, as well as what Morant could potentially do for them and how likely that is.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of an up and down year for the Heat, right? They start out the gate 14-7. This new up-tempo offense with Noah LaRoche consulting on. We're not going to set any ball screens. There's going to be this wheel motion offense, and it worked. They were running. They are still number 1 in pace in the league. And
they
it worked.
Flew in that Boston game.
Yeah, I mean, it really did take opponents by surprise the first month-ish of the season. Since then, teams have scouted it. They're getting back in transition more. Teams that typically crash a lot on the offensive rebound, the glass, they're not crashing as much against Miami because they're trying to get back. And I think that's interesting. So the Heat, like, you could look at that in a couple of ways, right? You could say, well, the Heat are they're getting opponents out of their game, right? Opponents that want to crash the glass just aren't doing it as much. At the same time, it's kind of worked. The Heat offense is now back into the bottom 10 in offensive rating this season. I think they peaked at like 11th in offensive rating. So they're starting to incorporate a few more ball screens in the offense over the last week. We saw maybe the most ball screens they've set in a game this season in their win against the Phoenix Suns the other night. So with Tyler Hero back and trying to get Bam involved, he was in a shooting slump a little bit there for a while, trying to get him kind of back on the schneid. They're starting to incorporate more of their bread and butter actions and more pick and roll and stuff like that. So you could probably anticipate a little bit more of that in this game on Thursday night, but they're still going to try to be opportunistic in terms of getting out and running. They're still playing up tempo and all these things. The one thing that hasn't changed for Miami is defensively, they're still really strong. They don't do anything like the Thunder where they're going to turn you over a ton. They're not loud defensively, but they dot their I's and they cross their T's, right? They're a real elite defensive rebounding team again. Bam is having another tremendous defensive season. He's all over the court. He's switching between 2 and 3 different defensive schemes a game, and they're able to kind of throw these different looks at opponents defensively. And now with Davion Mitchell and guys like Drew Smith and Andrew Wiggins, they have some real point of attack defenders that are making things difficult for opponents. And they're deep and they run in waves. And these guys run 5-6 minute stints and they try really hard defensively. They come out, they get a break, and then they go back in and do it again. So that's where the Heat have been. In terms of the Ja Morant stuff, I do think that some of these conversations are the rumors. There's something to them, right? I think there is conversations happening within the Heat front office of, are we the right place for Ja Morant, and can we maximize him? And one thing that I've heard that I've pushed back on is, well, you can't trade for Ja unless you're 100% sure that you can get him to reach his potential. Well, then you're not doing it, right? Like, you can't be 100% sure of anything. Like, you can't tell the future. But if the Heat conclude that they feel like 60, 70% good that they can get Ja to get something close to his 2022 form when he was second team All NBA, then I do think that depending on what the price is, that could be something that they explore more in depth. But right now, I think it's just in the exploratory conversation, doing your own research kind of phase for the Miami Heat. There have been brief conversations. But again, I don't think those talks have gone very far. Like I said, I think this is very much still internal for Miami.
Yeah, and if you look at the numbers this year, I saw one floating around that he is arguably the worst shooter in the league this season. So for whatever reason, his offensive game, injuries, I'm sure part of it, has completely fallen off there. And, they've tried to do a similar thing in Memphis, I think, in terms of the offensive system you talked about. So, does that work for him? Does he fit into that? Well, it was
LaRoche that was in Memphis. That was the assistant coach. And then the Heat picked him up as not as an assistant coach, but as a consultant. And that's been out there too. I think that if you get a guy like Ja and you feel like you want to try to commit to him, you just start running a few more ball screens for him, right? Like like I said, you're already starting to see the Heat trend in that way anyway. I don't think that the system would keep you from getting a player who you think could be a needle mover for you. And then the numbers are not good for Ja, for sure. The number that I keep seeing floating around is, well, he doesn't get to the rim anymore. So have injuries kind of sapped him of his ability to get to the basket. He hasn't had like the Achilles or the ACL tear. He hasn't had like any like Derrick Rose injuries. It's just been nagging stuff here and there. And he's clearly not like super stoked about playing for the Memphis Grizzlies right now. Getting to the basket is hard, right? Like, ask Jaylen Brown. It's hard to get to the rim over and over and over again and commit to that. If you're not psyched about playing for your team, you're probably not going to put that effort in. It's like a lot easier for Ja Morant to dribble up and pull up into a three-pointer, which he's not good at shooting, than to try to get to the rim over and over. So I'm not as concerned. I think if Ja's engaged, and that's the big if here, is if he's engaged, he can still get to the rim. To me, it's not a physical thing with Ja Morant. That's not my question with him. It's the mental part of it, and that's the part that the Heat have to, or any team trading for Ja Morant has to try to figure out.
Yeah, and it's a bummer because they formed such an identity there in Memphis. He was so central to it, and it ended up being more detrimental than it was a positive for them as time went on. It was nice, when they were in the playoffs and, they were rubbing opponents the wrong way. And I think there was a real edge to that team that now it just doesn't hit the same, that they're losing. So
they haven't been the same since Dylan Brooks left.
Right. Honestly, so true. Can Miami get Dylan Brooks too? I don't he's killing it in Phoenix right now. Just try to recreate that magic. Yeah, I mean, I like him in Miami. I think they're in a good position to take a risk like that, try to take a stab at something. And if it's just like a Rozier's contract going out and a pick or two or whatever it would cost, I don't know. But it feels like his value is at a good point where you can invest in something like that, although I haven't loved a lot of the guys that they've taken that kind of chance on. And obviously Lillard was another guy they looked at there who, if it went the same as it did for him in Milwaukee, probably wouldn't have been the right move either. And I don't know where Morant's at right now in terms of playing to his abilities. If it is more mental than physical, it's probably a great move. If physically he's deteriorating and it's just going to keep trending in that direction, could be a bit of a disaster. So it'll be interesting to see, but they're in a good position to do something like that. Celtics Heat always finds a way to be fun. It was a good one last time. Khalil Ware, love watching him crush the Celtics. Celtics end up winning that game with small ball. They've changed a lot since then themselves, and will do it mostly healthy tomorrow. Looks like Heat got Hero back, I'd imagine, and a bunch of probables, a bunch of guys who were on the report that look like
Davion Mitchell questionable with the shoulder. Jaime Jaquez is questionable, but he's been questionable a lot and then upgraded to available. Yeah. So we'll see what happens with Jaquez. But Davion Mitchell is the one that they're going to miss. I mean, his point of attack defense is really big, but Drew Smith should step in with more minutes.
All right, he's Wes Goldberg. Brings great coverage of the Heat down here in Miami, and you get a lot of national stuff from him over on Locked On NBA as well as Real GM Radio. Anything else you want to plug, man?
That was it. Nailed it.
All right. Thanks, Wes. Good talking to you as always. I'll see you at the game tomorrow. I love the coffee at the arena, man. That's what I'm dreaming of right now.
You and me. See you, Bobby.
All right. Talk to you then, man. And thanks to everybody for stopping by here. We'll have post-game tomorrow as well as shoot-around coverage in the morning. So look for that here on Celtics All Access, as well as another Celtics Daily later this week. Thanks for supporting the new show so far. Thanks to all the great guests like Wes. And we'll talk to you on Friday ahead of Celtics Hawks. Peace.